Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, January 24th. You are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Known for his roles in television shows and game franchises, Raphael Sbarge also spends time behind the camera, documenting history, community and the lives of different people. Sbarge earned his first Emmy nomination for the documentary LA Foodways. Now he's here with BronxNet to discuss his latest documentary, only in theaters, highlighting the Laemmle family and the role they played in cinema. Let's take a look at this trailer.
Welcome to the theater.
The movie theater's dead.
What was going to happen to movie theaters?
I hadn't heard of the Laemmle theater chain. As soon as my wife and I moved here, it became second nature.
I know people will ask, who are they? They're the premier art houses in the city. They are number one in that.
The theater business for a while just did nothing but make money.
The rise of television crippled Hollywood.
The other theaters had all closed during the early 50s when television hit.
I don't know if it'll ever come back the way it was.
Of the end for the movie theater.
How many movies am I going to go see this year? Probably two.
Some call it the great art of the 20th century. The Laemmle theaters have always been a bastion of that great art.
Max was the key person in making foreign language films available and accessible.
The French New Wave found its home here.
They show movies the AMC won't show.
If you're from a place where there's no movie theater, the opportunity to see these films in a space like Laemmle becomes pretty monumental.
We've been feeling the pressure of the streaming systems.
The Southern California theater chain may be up for sale.
I would be devastated if they sold it, I have to be honest.
Where am I going to go to see these types of movies?
Let's remember that the movie theater is kind of a sacred experience for all.
If the film theaters disappear, the entire ecosystem is undermined.
How much sacrifice is required, in pursuit of the thing that you love?
International public health emergency.
Movie theaters will be closed to the public.
You feel silly and stupid worrying about things like getting movie theaters open when everything else that's going on in our country is going on.
Oh my goodness!
Will enough people want to go to theaters to make the theatrical business still viable?
TV, home video, cable, DVD, 4K, having the same conversation for 125 years.
Take everyone you know into a theater, shoulder to shoulder.
The experience of a movie in a theater, that's when the heavens open.
We're always going to want, in some level, that experience of sitting in that movie theater. I'm going to believe that people are going to come back to that.
So Raphael, thank you so much for joining us to discuss the film.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to talk a little bit about, before we, talk about the film, I know you have a very extensive background, working in acting, and I think that's really amazing, but, what inspired you to do some directing?
Yeah, I've been an actor for my whole life. I was on Sesame Street when I was 4, and I've done lots of Broadway. I've done lots and lots of films and television and video games, and I'm a storyteller. That's what we do as actors. And the opportunity to be able to the first time I directed, I was basically producing something, someone fell out, and I sort of stepped in, and there's a lot to learn in terms of, the technical aspect of how you actually create a visual story as opposed to sort of doing it internally. And that's been fascinating. But it seems to be sort of a natural extension of me as an actor. It's just another way to reach people and connect.
So speaking of reaching people, you talk about, the theater business in your latest documentary, Only in Theaters. Can you actually give us, I know we saw the trailer, but can you give a brief overview about what the film is basically about?
Yeah, simply. It's about it's about a family. It's about an immigrant family who escaped the Holocaust, came to the United States, and did an extraordinary thing by creating what is arguably one of the most important theater chains right in the center of Hollywood that had this sort of huge influence and has effectively been committed to supporting filmmakers, films and audiences for almost 100 years. And so it's about this family that did that.
Right. So as you mentioned, it's about this family, and they had a huge impact, on the theater industry. But I think a lot of people, so many people consume, movies, and we go to the theater. But, for those who don't know, can you talk about how they actually impacted the theater industry?
Yeah, the Laemmle Theater chain is an art house cinema chain. Now, the art house cinema chain is different than an AMC, for example, in that it is focused more on independent filmmakers, of which I am, right? Independent filmmakers are outside of the studio system, and we generally, with our kind of, passion and I can do this kind of, and also an attempt to try and also find a way in. I mean, how do you start, right? How do you become a filmmaker? Well, at some point you have to make a movie, right? And if you make that movie, what happens is that you have to have a place to show it. And so these theaters have been a place where filmmakers can come, where they can be supported and given a leg up. And from that, all sorts of remarkable things can happen. And the people that I spoke to, for example, Ava DuVernay, whose movie that, she made a film that won Sundance, and she was a new filmmaker, and she tried to figure out her way to get a leg up, and she called the Laemmle Theaters and said, give me some shows, and she did. And then she called New York and said, get me some, I got LA, can I get New York? And that just opened something for her. And she spoke to me because she knew that the Laemmle Theaters had made a big difference in her career. Cameron Crowe, wonderful director named James Ivory, who's won the Oscar. Lots of Oscar winners, lots of really substantial filmmakers spoke to me because having a theater that really is dedicated to the art of film really is why we became filmmakers, what we love about going to the movies, and also really helps kind of elevate us past, there's a lot of noise out there. How do you get noticed? And this theater has been really focused on that.
Now, I'm so glad that you brought up and, talked about the difference between an art house theater and, something like AMC. And I could see like somebody like Ava DuVernay, I'm like, wow, she's huge. But like, the fact that, these theaters were able to give her a start, I think that's amazing. Is that part of the reason why you really wanted to tell this story?
Yeah. I mean, so let me just start by saying this. Here we are in New York, in the Bronx. I live in Harlem. There's no Laemmle Theater in New York, right? Why should I care about this theater that's in some other city that I've never heard about, and I don't even know what art house theater is? Well, here's the thing. There are art house cinemas all around the country, all around the world. And whether you know Laemmle or not, the story that we told, which was a personal and very specific story about this family, is ultimately about cinema, really, and about the future of cinema. And then also, hopefully, if it's not too grand to say, about the American dream. I mean, this is a fourth generation family business. We all know family businesses. There are complexities in family businesses. And how do you keep it going? How do you keep that family mission moving forward? And that's what they've done. As far as, art house generally is focused on independent documentary and foreign films. Now, look, streaming has come in strong, and I partake in streaming. Right. But the art of film, it is an art, right? It's not just something to kind of hang out with. I mean, yeah, of course, we all have stupid things that we watch to just kind of distract ourselves. But there are. It's a 125-year-old art form, right? And the whole design of this art form is to watch films on a 50 or 60-foot screen. If any of your listeners basically had, as we all know, the COVID shutdown basically closed all the theaters. Right. And if you've gone back to a theater, you've been reminded, like, oh my God, that was an experience. That was sort of a overwhelming, right, in a three-dimensional way that you can't get sitting on your couch. And we all like convenience, but let me just ask this, COVID, if we take one thing from it, right? What is it? Oh my gosh, what I really need to do is continue to sit at home all alone on my couch and watch movies. Like, come on, get out.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because, the movie also touches on like how COVID, not only impacted like the movie theater business, but, we see how it impacted a family business. And, I think that's so amazing. Can you talk about why you really wanted to share the story, kind of make it bigger than just like, oh, these people who, give people a place to watch movies, but it was something that was so important to this family.
Yeah, I mean, look, I filmed this documentary over 2.5 years, and we started we started. I was initially sort of attracted to this incredible legacy story because there has been a Laemmle in the movie business since there's been a movie business. The original Laemmle, Carl Laemmle, founded a little movie studio called Universal Pictures, and discovered people like Valentino and Malloy and a young illustrator named Walt Disney, and essentially is one of the giant moguls that helped create Hollywood. This is this family who has, as I say, been in the movie business since there's been a movie business, and I was really struck by them. In the process of starting this, it then kind of, and this is the interesting thing about documentaries, you know, sometimes you start with an idea, and then what happens is it ends up telling you at some point, it's like, the story's going this way. Now, if you're going to go that way, like, you can tell that story, but the story is traveling this way. Are you going to go with it? And I've been told by other documentary filmmakers that that's sort of the magic of this medium, is that, you know, you get on the boat and it takes you, you know, and that's what happened. We went through a lot of different sort of twists and turns, including, obviously, there's a section of the film that's about COVID, but it's much more than that. And as you say, it's really about survival. It's about resilience. It's about a family and their personal mission to try and continue to kind of keep going despite extraordinary odds.
Now that you have time to reflect, you know, how has this project changed how you currently view the world of cinema, or, you know, has it changed it at all?
Yeah, I mean, you know, where we are at the moment, and you know, again, perhaps you've seen the headlines, right? You know, this theater or that theater is going out of business or filing Chapter 11. Maybe your neighborhood theater has closed. I actually interviewed a guy who was a sort of expert on exhibition. We didn't put this in the film, but it's, you've heard of food deserts, right? Food deserts are, you know, neighborhoods where there's no market, no food available to them in the area. So they have to literally go out of their neighborhood in order to be able to get food, right? So there is now a new term. It's called movie theater deserts, which is, in this case, you've got the cinema, which is from in that town, and it's closed forever.
Wow.
And it will never come back, right? Sometimes that's because there was no business. Sometimes that's because they want to build a condo or something else. You know, it is real estate, and we understand that real estate is valuable. But in this case, the question is, if we're not sort of, I guess I want to say we're at a fragile moment, you know, and as we're all coming back to whatever this new normal is. And again, this movie, it's not a COVID movie. It's just a small element. It's 6 minutes in the movie, but it is a larger discussion about the future of exhibition, what it means. You know, and let me just even go a step further, which is something else that I discovered. You know, here we are at a time when we know there's enormous spikes in depression and anxiety and chronic loneliness, right? There is something to be said to finding places where you can be socialized, where you can actually, you know, come into a dark movie theater, come in as strangers and leave as friends because you've all had the shared experience, right? There's something about that I think is innately, I mean, we're social animals, right? So there are reasons above and beyond, oh, heck, there's great popcorn and don't you want to go sit in the theater? There's actually other things where we are finding places to sort of reconnect. And that's what movie theaters, I think, bring us. And I'm more aware of that than ever.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and, you know, sharing this with us. And I was definitely interested. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
To find out more about Only in Theaters, please check out their website at www.onlyintheaters.com or follow them on Instagram at onlyintheatersmovie or on Twitter at only_in theaters. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Open right after this.